CinemaSpection. I'm Tim, and this is going to be a quick one, as I wanted to present a brief mini edition of our First Run series to discuss a great movie that I think deserves your attention. Now, I should also note this review is coming a bit late as we've had a lot going on here, so I apologize for the delay. Now, several times on this show, I've had the chance to discuss the fascinating independent thriller Cockazoid that debuted at the 2021 Salem Horror Fest and made it onto my list of favorite movies for that year. Well, the director of that film, Nick Verdi, has a brand new movie, Sweet Relief, that's just begun screening around the New England area, and earlier this month I was lucky enough to get to see it in its second ever public screening, courtesy of Cinema Salem and the Baron's Hideout podcast, who held a special event presenting the film, conducted a Q&A with the filmmakers, and notably make an appearance in the film. They've since released their episode featuring that discussion, so you should definitely check that out, and I'll include a link with this review, although be warned, it does include some spoilers for the film. Before we get to the movie, in the interest of disclosure, I should mention this wasn't my first viewing of the movie, as I did get the chance to see an early work-in-progress cut of the film. Now, that was really neat, as I've never really gotten that opportunity before, and it was fascinating to see the subtle ways the film evolved during post-production, or to see some scenes with the raw audio where you can actually hear Verdi shouting out directions from behind the camera. Very cool. Sweet Relief tells the story of an internet fad gone awry, a strange social media challenge in which kids are encouraged to record a video of themselves naming someone they'd want to kill, with the understanding that if they are visited by a creepy figure known as the Sweet Angel, they have to carry out their proposed murder or risk being killed themselves along with their families. A young woman, Hannah, urges her friends Corey and Lily to participate in the challenge, with the trio assuming it's all just a joke, until the Sweet Angel actually shows up and things suddenly get very real. Now, that bare logline would seem like a pretty solid foundation for a horror movie, but Verdi doesn't take the obvious route you'd expect with it, instead making it one element that snakes in and out of a larger story involving a group of characters who each have their own issues going on, including Hannah's nerdy older brother Nathan, who's become increasingly obsessed with Sweet Relief, his bored girlfriend Jess, who entangles herself in a dangerous situation after stumbling on evidence of a crime, and Gerald, a puffed-up police informant with some dark secrets of his own. The movie is in many ways a fascinating contrast to Verdi's previous film. As opposed to Cockazoid's solo act by actor Jimmy Lane, who I'm happy to say returns here in a bit part as Gerald's coffee-swigging police handler, the structure of the film is set up in such a way that any of these characters could be our protagonist, but instead they and their respective stories intersect in interesting, organic ways that keep you guessing until you get the whole picture. Additionally, where Cockazoid's visual style was strikingly bleak and chilly, this time Verdi offers a film that's awash in warm green exteriors and sunny landscapes, which makes for a sharp contrast to many of the creepy events depicted, including the sudden appearances of the Sweet Angel lurking at the fringes of scenes, which is really chilling. While this film moves away from the grand guignol gore of Cockazoid, the scenes of violence, often playing out just off camera, are no less disturbing thanks to a particularly effective use of sound, from the liquidy slice of a slit throat to the hollow crack of a character being clubbed on the skull. I also have to note the great score from Renato Montenegro, which bounces between quietly eerie music cues that bring to mind the meditative bits of Bernard Herrmann's Psycho music, and a jaunty theme that ironically punctuates some of the story's most disturbing moments. Funny side note, in writing this up I discovered that Montenegro is in the awesome progressive rock group Dustwitch, who Agatha and I got to see as the opening act for our beloved Coolidge Corner Horror Marathon way back in 2015. I love discovering weird connections like that. Anyway, I was also super impressed by how Verdi allows many scenes to play out in long single masters, which is a really tricky technique that thankfully the whole cast is up for, as all the performances here ring true. Lucy Rosenfeld, Jocelyn Lopez, and Katie Dupont are all great as the three young women who all react in different ways to suddenly being pushed into a murder pact. Elisa Lee does a lovely job silently implying Jess's simmering impatience with her boyfriend, as well as the curiosity that fuels some of her risk-taking impulses, often giving us all this with just a look. I'm embarrassed to say that Adam Michael Kozak's performance as the awkward Nathan, constantly distracted by his personal hang-up with Sweet Relief, hit a bit close to home for me. He gets to participate in what for me was one of the movie's most strangely disturbing scenes as he fumblingly tries to argue about Sweet Relief with an alarmist teacher, played by Jonathan Demme regular Paul Azar, who embodies the type of concerned, self-appointed authority who will argue points that seem rational on the surface but are really made in bad faith under the conceit of just asking questions. But the real jewel, performance-wise, has to be B.R. Yeager's beautifully unctuous turn as Gerald. I have to confess that for fun, Agatha and I have been watching internet videos of so-called whackers, people like to get decked out in police gear and pretend they're cops, as well as sovereign citizens, and Yeager manages to tap into the delusional arrogance and self-aggrandizing common to both groups, succeeding in somehow being simultaneously pathetic and menacing. Gerald also embodies one of the movie's strongest themes, how many of the people who scream the loudest about protecting the children and society at large are actually the most dangerous threats to both. It's a particularly timely concern in the internet age when so much of what we see and hear is bent and twisted to serve an agenda. But as opposed to so many other movies about social media, Verdi gives us more than just a bunch of scenes of people looking at screens or some Luddite knee-jerk depiction of the internet as this monolithic threat to the kids. Instead, the real danger is that we become blind to the threats in the tangible world around us, where fantasy and delusion can mutate into a cruel, bloody reality. 2 movies in, and Verdi again proves a talent to watch, mixing social commentary with thrills in a way that defies convention or simple categorization, just like 2 of my favorite horror filmmakers, George Romero and Larry Fessenden. As with Cockazoid, Sweet Relief hasn't secured wide distribution yet, but the filmmakers have been holding screenings here and there in the New England area, and I urge you to keep an eye out for them. That ends the review, but not the discussion. If you'd like to have your say about Sweet Relief or feel that I missed something, check out the comment section for this mini-episode on cinemaspection.com and start talking. Email your comments, complaints, questions, and suggestions to cinemaspection@gmail.com. You can also like our Facebook page, but as for Twitter, we decided to close our account on there before the whole website collapses under its own weight. Thanks a bunch, Elon. We're also on Instagram under CinemaSpection. Our show is available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and Amazon Music, so if you like what you hear, please subscribe, and if you have a moment, please leave us a review there. We appreciate your feedback, and your reviews help increase our visibility. We're also part of the Fireside Alliance podcast network. Check out some of the other great shows on the network at www.firesidealliance.com and join our Discord. We'll be back to discuss another movie next time. Until then, thanks for listening, and remember to keep watching closely. There's more to a movie than what's on the screen.